Hello, let's talk about bad readers. Let's talk about how I was in the reading slump and that I have a book wrap up which was delayed from probably February to April. So, welcome. So, let's start with a short book wrap up. And there's a mix of different books as always, but I just feel like it's gonna be like a confessions of bad reader. The first on the list probably will be Jamie Littler and Arkspire. Now, it is a author of Frostheart. The world felt in this book felt like more like or steampunk is probably what I want to say. So it wasn't binding with this specifically. This is obviously a middle grade book. The illustrations is of the same author, which I always get impressed by that sort of thing. Then I went to his profile because I definitely like the illustrations. I went to look at his profile and I realized that I might enjoy Frostheart. So I probably might enjoy Frostheart because it's more themed into this icy world that I might bind better with than with the steampunk world. So really that was one of the things that I was like thinking maybe I should give a chance to the other one.
The premise of Arkspire is based in a steampunk-like city, which is founded by 5 arcanists, and we follow a girl who has scoundrel-like traits and steal a relic and bound to a mysterious creature that is an enemy of these arcanists.
The next one was actually lessons in chemistry, and I feel like I talked about it so much for my Patreon because one of the months it was a Patreon pick. I really loved it. I feel like there are some lines with the show and some lines with the writer that connect to the book itself. I felt there are a few differences from the show to the book. But if you love the show, I think you might love the book. I certainly enjoyed both to quite a degree. And, it was a recommendation. It was a recommendation of mine. Premise is that it is about a roughly, I say, 50s time when ladies were a bit limited on what they could achieve. But we have this lady who's basically was studied to be a scientist. And for misfortunate events, she didn't reach her entire potential in degrees. And basically, for earning money, she starts making a cooking show. There's much more to it, really. Like, I feel like I'm gonna tell an entire story if I tell about it, but basically, she needs to earn money. She does the cooking show, but she explains in a chemistry ways, and she's very. I want to say I said that before. She's very sort of almost autistic because she has this very scientific picture and doesn't make good connections with real world in like social sense, let's say. But I really enjoyed that character and enjoyed the relationships, the story, the drive. Really impressive for the drive. The drive is, if you know what I mean when I say like it felt a bit like in the beginning, especially like Marie Curie. Marie Curie was very confined to her research and I think very much evaluating the work and dropping out everything else of her life almost. It felt like a similar type of drive, but also very motivating at the same time. Originally, I thought it's a romance book. Just by the cover, for some reason, I thought, oh, some sort of romance book, and I was avoiding it, but it's definitely not a romance. And obviously, there are some trigger warnings as well in it. Every time I can talk about a book quite a long time, it usually means a good sign, right? Wildsmith is another middle grade book. Now, another one which I absolutely adore the illustrations. It just feels like a cartoon. I can't really remember it very well now. Honestly, I feel like this was about the girl who was basically announced to be a wildsmith. When war threatens her beloved city, Rowan and her mother must flee to the dark forest. There they meet her grandpa and his white wolf Arthur for the first time. Though she misses her father, Rowan makes new friends, including a trio of powerful witches. When she rescues a baby dragon from poachers, she discovers the secret of her own identity. Could Rowan really be a wildsmith? Fostering a whole clutch of dragons as summer speeds by, but when danger threatens, Rowan and Grandpa must call on all of their friends for help. Um, yeah, I think it went very quickly, and I think it's because it is a part of a series, and this is Into the Dark Forest, and the next looks like it's City of Secrets, and that's often the case with me why I don't always get into the series, because if it's sort of not quite the right pacing for me. But either way, I can imagine this being a cartoon. I can imagine this being cute and lovely. It read quickly. I remember that it read quickly. Now I made the biggest mistake. I made the biggest mistake to actually make myself read certain books at a certain time. And it was really not suitable for me at the time. Now I was filming a Kiki's Delivery service-based vlog, and I was like, what about if I make a book list for what is related to Kiki's Delivery service in a sense? I obviously thought like Evergreen, which is perfectly whimsical book, is probably one of the best relation. Maybe other ones, middle grade ones like The Girl Who Drank the Moon could be a good fit as well. But then I went to other direction and I said, I'm gonna read bunch of books that are related to coffee shops and bakeries and that sort of thing. And here we are. That's the confession. I picked up random list of books. I actually made a list, and I pick up like 3 books, if not more, on baking and whatnot. The first one was called Baker's Guide to Country Living. And the second one was called Bread Alone, and the third one was called Cake Therapist. Gee, let's start with that. And the most engaging for me was Baker's Guide to Country Living. For some reason, it's about the lady who like leaves her partner or something like that, moves into countryside and sort of becomes baker there or something to that sign. But it is mostly because the writing style was quite wonderful, and I just want to read something from it. Here we go. I reach for a large knife and chop the apples into thick slices. I look beyond the woman and out the kitchen window as I walk. An expanse of lawn stretched out an uphill where a line of crab apples stood heavy with fruit. I caught myself thinking about what it would look like as the sun rose, the grass glinting with dew and frost. I tossed a pile of apple slices into a cast iron pan with a couple of pats of butter and turned on the flame. The cinnamon scent of the macintoshes mingled with the tang of the melting butter, reminding me of my old neighbor Mary's kitchen where I wove my first lattice crust. So what I want to say, usually with that sort of books that supposedly should be about cooking, tastes, and whatnot, I like that weaving of the memory and action, cooking while really describing what it is in front of you, how it smells, and what it reminds you of at the same time. So it gives like emotional flavor to it. That's really what I like, and about shows with food, that is really like descriptive and very like zoomed in into food. But not only just being descriptive, like I'm doing chopping the apple and putting it in a pan, it's actually weaving it in. So that's what I was engaging with the most, and what I expect from books about food, like that are novels, not cooking books. But at the same time, Bread Alone was very similar in the plot, not as prettily written, but it also felt like a person who was bouncing between the jobs somehow, and basically was sort of turning into baking, I would say. But at the same time, I wasn't engaging as much. And then I was getting deeper and deeper into slump, because I was like forcing myself to read these books. I DNF'd Bread Alone. I was quite a deep in the book, really, I remember, but I was like, no, I'm really slumping down. After a little bit, I didn't pick up this one right away. I actually picked up recently, a few days ago. And I also read on the bottom here, I think says that Judith Fertig, who wrote this book, is a cookbook author whose food and lifestyle writing has appeared in more than a dozen publications, including Bon Appetit, Saveur, and New York Times. Now, then I was reading it. So the premise is that Claire O'Neill is a pastry chef of extraordinary talent. Every great chef can taste shimmering, elusive flavors that most of us miss, but Neely can taste feelings. Cinnamon makes you remember, plum is pleased with itself, orange is a wake-up call. When flavor and feeling give Neely a glimpse of someone's inner self, she can customize her creations to help that person celebrate love, overcome fear, even mourn a devastating loss. So I would love the person not to be a chef, I guess, because it's really difficult to separate her cooking and her feelings. And I feel like it would be nice if it wasn't necessarily so close to cooking, but also still about it. So I was starting to read it and I couldn't just get it. I couldn't get even that premise. I couldn't quite get the taste of it. In any sense, I didn't even give it a chance properly because I was, like I say, slumping at that point already. One of the best things for this book is uneven ridges. It just feels so worn. I believe it's new, but it's like feels so soft and worn and so wonderful to actually read. I don't know if I'm gonna keep it because I just know it's not my style books and I couldn't quite find my connection to it. At the same time, I didn't really give it a chance. So it could be quite good, I don't know, but here we are. Here we are. I did try it. Now the next one was Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. It was such an amazing book. Again, then to my recommendations. It's so strange that I'm doing recommendations right now and I can actually, like, I don't grade books even on my Goodreads. I don't put them graded or anything. So I don't like to do that. Because again, I just feel I'm very much in a mood reader. But Tomorrow, 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 Tomorrow and Tomorrow, Tomorrow was a wonderful book. It was about two game creators who know each other from like very young age, and basically started company together, and we see how that company develops. Their lens is very much game driven, and again, maybe a little bit of autistic traits in terms of socializing and being a bit over fixated, but at the same time, it just like bears some of the relationships even more. I struggled to connect at first. I think I knew what it was going to be about. I thought I'm going to connect much quicker. I actually struggled to connect at first. The pivotal scene for me was like very late in the book, with a dramatic event, but I feel like it was constantly a build up to that, a constant build up to that scene that explains exactly why this viewpoint, everything. I loved it. I started reading Witcher because I was a fan of the series. We even watched the animation, like so many different sort of versions of it in a sense. Never read Witcher as a book before. Then started with Blood of Elves. There's different versions of how to read in what order. So start with Blood of Elves, and I think I'm now on the like Tempest of Time or something else called book, a second one by my imagination. The writing style is absolutely wonderful. Yeah, it does differ from the show. Don't know if it's a good way or bad way. Blood of Elf starts very late as well. Obviously, we miss entire Jennifer's story, but I think that's because the other stories could be or other books could be before that. But it was really, really like tangling me in as a writer because of that writing style at most, and like looking at very important different questions and almost political questions and forming of each character. I think it was like wonderful in that writer's sense in many like craft. So really enjoyed it, and I think I'm continuing with them. This is my friend's book. It's in Lithuanian, so so it's called if we translated the word, it would be more like The Pure Daybreak, which basically is little bit sci-fi. As you can see, the cover is wonderful actually. Little bit of sci-fi, that in middle of these like dunes or whatever, in the middle of this desert, there is a city protected under the glass dome, with some sort of, so with its own resource. A panopticon over controlled areas is shown as very wonderful. Everyone's protected and well, cared for, but actually it's like a bit over controlled with these sort of over mechanized. It's more like sci-fi because in that sense it's kind of robotic in many, and androids exist. And then the main character is a young girl who basically gets swooped in by, because she's a bit of a poorer family, poorer region in a sense. She gets swooped in as her neighbor is taken away for spreading rumors or whatever, right? So Eva Sense, it's a bit of like rebellion type of story. I really enjoyed it, especially because it's read so quickly. And I think it's the pacing. It's not the language, it's the pacing that was quite quick. It does feel a bit more like a older middle grade, I would say. Maybe actually I quite enjoyed it. That's all I can say. In any sense, I read Troll Hunters because I love the show Troll Hunters. And I wanted to see what was an actual inspiration for it. And the actual inspiration was the book, right? And it was very different. Very different. Nothing really is the same. Yeah, it starts, we find out that it starts with some years before the main boy who became troll hunter, right? His father was gone, but in the story his father is not gone. Arg, which is one of the trolls, is a female because apparently the most mightiest troll warriors are all females. So it felt really different, like massively different. And I do prefer the show better somehow. Next was Equal Rights by Terry Pratchett. This is my first Terry Pratchett book. I really enjoyed it. I, again, love the language, love how the story is told. Equal Rights is about a girl who was basically as a wizard died, he passes on his wizard power to someone. So the girl got passed on a wizard power. But because she's a girl, she's not allowed to be a wizard. So this is basically that sort of story. As she grows up and goes and tries to become a wizard and change the system. I loved it. Again, and might have been very simplistic because it led to it in a sense, but I love the telling, love the process. Marvel Squirrel Girl, the unbeatable Squirrel Girl. I'm sorry, I read the comic because my partner is very much into superheroes, and all of them DC or Marvel. And basically, I some time ago, very recently, found out that this was in charity shop. I think it's only £2. Like, okay, I'll get it because I read the comic and I cannot imagine it being a novel. So I read the novel and it is very similar to a comic. It's really like fun and light and quick and really nonsensical to a degree, and also half of it. And oh yes, sorry, it was enjoyable, quick, good time. Love the squirrels. Anyway, so you can tell it's a younger reader and middle grade or whatever, but and also half of that book written in the messages between superheroes. It's just sort of just like a bit of reminding me of that comic, really. I think there were some messages there as well. So yeah, it was quick and fun, not too plotty, not too serious, to be honest. Lightfall, it's kind of like adventure comic. I'm probably gonna reread it again because I've just got the third part. It's like a trilogy. It's really adventure based. That's all I can say. It's a girl and her companion.
So Lightfall premises about a bee who On one of her foraging trips meets a Galdurian, an ancient race creature who's looking for more of his skin.
Art is one of the things that's very cute. It's very up my valley. I bought the third part and I'm going to read that because I read one and two during this time. Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. This is a Patreon pick. I'm probably going to talk indefinitely about it during my book club, which I'm currently not finished the book. I have 6 more hours, I believe, left. That's the big problem for me. It's like 27 hours. The entire month was basically dedicated for this book. I'm listening it to an audiobook, as you probably could tell. And it is very chunky. It is about two magicians who basically brought back magic to England, and it is about fairy magic. I want to say it is about entitled and arrogant magicians in general. The characters are quite. It's a bunch of professors who think we know better, and pacing. Pacing is quite like gathering of almost different stories, and then we lead something with a thread quite slow. So I have a love and hate relationship. There is a little bit for everyone, and that's what you can always find in my wrap ups that I always do, like a lot of different books at a time, because I'm such a mood reader, always get something different and changing and all that. And I'm probably not gonna do another one for a little while again, because I'm definitely slowed down into the pace of my reading at the moment. But I hope you find something that you like in this, or you already read, and you know that it is a good book in a sense. But in either case, see you next time. Bye.